The scene is blurred with streaks of light tearing through space. In this goddamn world I've lived a terrible life. Zeon appeared with a look of panic and despair. What can the weak do to have their own wealth and status? The abyss is like a monster's mouth swallowing everything around. And that's why I'm slowly dying, because I'm too weak. The point of impact flashed like a fateful crack. About 100 years ago, a terrible blinding light descended upon the earth. That light exploded violently upon contact with the earth. That beam of light began to devour all life on this planet. The white light tore through the night, the small blue planet, once the cradle of all things. The feeling of life being swallowed in an instant. Soon, it turned into a vast desert. The city sank into a scene of desolation. The few survivors could do nothing but build fortresses for themselves. His face was a mixture of complex emotions. Why not just wipe them out completely? Why let these insects continue to survive? Zeon was immediately pushed back by a force of impact. The thug's mouth curled up provocatively. "Oh my, I just touched you lightly by accident." He maintained a casual demeanor. "I'm sorry, I sincerely apologize. Can I have your name so I know how to apologize?" His face was a mixture of complex emotions. "Zeon." The thug burst into excited laughter. "Just one name? Does that mean you only have one father?" Zeon's eyes darkened as he spoke mockingly. "Look at the kid's sulking face. The guys who get on this bus to the mine usually have one thing in common." The thug excitedly approached, patted him on the shoulder. "Relax, kid, since we're on the same boat, we should get along, right?" Zeon fell into a brief moment of contemplation. "None of them are actually minors, so what crime were you caught for?" His eyes showed a mixture of complex emotions. "They're either criminals or wanted fugitives. It's definitely one of those two. There's no escape," a mocking voice echoed. "Assault, fraud, or theft, if you want to hear me tell you." Zeon, as fast as lightning, threw a counterpunch. The thug was painfully knocked backward. He clenched his fists in a frenzied manner. "You're completely wrong, you idiot. Do you really want to know?" His eyes filled with intense killing intent. "I'm guilty of murder." He fell into a brief moment of thought. "To be precise, I didn't kill anyone, because in Neo's soul, only the strong are considered human." His face was a mixture of complex emotions. "It's no big deal. What's the harm in adding more trash to the landfill? It was just a rat that dared to steal from me, so it was dealt with." "Damn it, I didn't know it was someone else's pet rat," Lee Jiryong's younger brother said provocatively. "Do you know my big brother Jiryong? You're finished, you fool." His expression changed in fear. "Jiryong." Killing intent immediately enveloped the space. "If the strong are considered human, then the awakened are gods above all else." Zeon's spine chilled with panic. A sewer rat like me dared to offend a god. Rumors of Jiryong hunting me spread everywhere. So, I quickly got on this bus heading to the mine immediately. He suddenly paused for a moment in thought. "Hey." The thug remained unfazed by the powerful punch. "Are you done talking?" Zeon was still not fully recovered. "What is this? Why does my head hurt so much? Don't tell me." In that moment of complacency, he was knocked backward. Zeon's face contorted in pain. He slowly stretched his joints. "Why didn't you say so earlier? I'm here for the exact same reason. I would have treated you like a younger brother and loved you a little. But you dared to go too far, exceeding my tolerance limit." He seemed to lose his composure in anger. "Damn it. Hell, are you playing with me? I had to run to escape an awakened one. Do you guys understand? Do you know what I had to go through to crawl all the way here? Damn it, why here, why?" His henchman chimed in provocatively. "It seems the big brother needs to teach you a lesson." The killing intent on the thug erupted. "Everyone here agrees, right?" Zeon questioned indignantly. "He's an awakened one. Even in this hellhole I've encountered an awakened one." He decisively and forcefully charged into the encirclement. The car shook violently due to the impact. His voice deepened threateningly. "Damn it, what is this? Driver, do you know how to drive? Want to?" His back was momentarily heavy with helplessness. He clutched his wound and asked indignantly, "What is that guy muttering about?" His face changed in fear. He paused briefly and then said hesitantly, "It's not like that. I already told you it's not. We're not going to the mine." His eyes were bloodshot and manic. What are you babbling about?" Sweat poured down his face. "We are." The deep abyss, like a monster's mouth, swallowing everything around, was consumed. Everyone immediately staggered due to loss of balance. Thinking back, everything just kept repeating as before. Zeon was also struggling as his body was about to be submerged. He had sunk into bottomless pits due to helplessness. Whether in Neo's soul or when I encountered an awakened, even being devoured by a sandworm was nothing special. At this moment, Zeon was still fighting for his life, because in this trash world, being robbed by the strong is commonplace. His eyes were marked with bloodshot veins. Zeon's vision gradually became blurry. So my death here was simply because I was too weak. Darkness seemed to envelop the surroundings, a conclusion so mediocre and predictable it became tiresome. Of course, I always dreamed of a scenario where I was a little stronger to avoid such a tragic death, but now those words are just meaningless illusions. A resilient hand reached up from the sea of sand. The ground was still slowly shaking. His fingers were broken but still carried resilience. The sand pit continued to swirl like a hurricane. He immediately opened his eyes wide in astonishment. Zeon powerfully escaped the engulfment of the sand pit. He clenched his clothes as tears streamed down. Zeon's entire body was enduring tearing pain. Shattered statues appeared around. His eyes were bloodshot with terror. The tall tower also gradually tilted and fell. The entire city was submerged in a sandstorm. Zeon suddenly stopped, rooted to the spot. Sturdy structures were gradually decaying. His expression was a mix of complex emotions. The point of impact flashed like a faded crack. His eyes seemed to contain the entire galaxy. His entire body was covered in powerful chi. Sand exploded. A beam of light pierced through, creating a large hole. Viscous fluid dripped slowly. I must survive. Zeon's face was a mix of complex emotions in this cursed world of dust and sand. He stood up straight with a resilient demeanor. I swear. A light flashed in his eyes. He turned towards the monster with a frantic demeanor. I will survive at all costs. Zeon's face was a mix of complex emotions. I can feel this pain vividly. He seemed to feel the changes within his body. Every cell in him was screaming, this is my awakening. Zeon stood proudly before the ferocious monster. It madly bared its sharp teeth at him. Zeon remained calm, his eyes unwavering. That's right, bring it on. Yongbium suddenly appeared, pushing him back. For a test subject, you're just in the way. His eyes widened in horror. He was pushed back by a force. A moment later, Zeon slammed hard onto the ground. He struggled to sit up and said in dissatisfaction, what the heck, who is that guy, when did he approach? His spine chilled with fear. Damn it, hey. The smell of blood instantly filled the air. What is he made of that he can't be taken down? He stood proudly and declared loudly, afraid of heights, then I'll send you down again. Yongbium raised his leg towards the sword and brought it down to the first floor. The giant monster quickly collapsed to the ground. His expression instantly changed upon witnessing it directly. What is this? Zeon fell into a moment of deep thought. Did he just take down a sandworm in an instant? He let out a soft sigh of admiration. This feeling still hadn't disappeared, so this is what awakening is like. His face was a mix of complex emotions. I've never seen an awakened person like this before. Giselle said excitedly. Jang Yongbium, that's our captain. He paused in confusion. What? She smiled enthusiastically. See, that's why he's the captain. Was this the fastest he'd ever defeated an opponent? Zeon immediately became wary. When did he make his move? He was horrified as his arm felt like it was plunged into an ice cellar. He's much stronger than he looks. Wait a minute. His arm is ice cold. Yongbium's voice deepened with authority. Sandworms aren't that difficult to deal with. And hey Giselle. Giselle responded enthusiastically. Yes sir. His eyes were a mix of complex emotions. Yongbium sighed softly as he witnessed the argument unfolding. Honestly, damn it. She smiled enthusiastically with a hint of interest in her eyes. Giselle decisively pulled him away. Then she immediately threw him down to restrain him. Giselle watched intently, full of excitement. Alright, let's see what this guy's rank and abilities are. Let's check. Aren't you excited? She suddenly stopped, her eyes filled with doubt. Giselle's voice lowered heavily. Captain, this guy isn't awakened. She resisted with a shiver. What do you mean? That's impossible. She maintained her calm demeanor. Look, Zeon's disgruntled shout rang out. Are you crazy? Hurry up, Giselle declared clearly. He doesn't have a rank badge at all. His eyes dimmed with rage. No badge, really? I clearly awakened, right? Why don't I have it? The driver immediately shouted a hasty warning. Don't just stand there gawking, move it. I said the sun is about to set, hurry up. Her eyes flickered, then she spoke in a heavy voice. Captain, what do we do about him now? If we leave him, he'll definitely die. Zeon frowned in dissatisfaction. You broke his arm and are now messing with him. Yongbium's face was a mix of complex emotions. He watched intently without flinching. He casually waved and declared, throw him in the car. He's going towards the mine anyway. Giselle became excited. Understood. The tank quickly moved across the desert. His voice turned stern as a warning. Why do you always charge in alone? I told you, don't make things more complicated. Don't split from the group on your own anymore. Don't pretend to be deaf. Zeon lay quietly amidst the fierce argument. How much farther to the mine? Don't just beat around the bush. What if the sun sets? this is a nice car. He suddenly paused as the sand shifted. It's always like this. Zeon maintained his indifferent demeanor. He decisively sat up and confirmed the movements according to his will. I've definitely awakened something. Zeon's eyes showed a hint of doubt with an uneasy look. But why didn't they see my rank badge? Thinking about it, the color is a bit strange, orange. No, that's not it. He watched the badge on his arm intently. It was the same color as the sand. His face was a mix of complex emotions. The light of the badge reflects the innate quality of the awakened person. Giselle burst into hearty laughter with an excited demeanor. The magic system will emit a blue light. Yongbyum's expression changed with vigilance. The combat system will emit a red light. His hand slowly touched the sand surface. Although there are rare cases with different innate qualities, Zeon's eyes were focused on controlling his actions. But I've never heard of the power to control sand before. His expression showed a hint of relief and satisfaction. The system displays the lowest rank, F, but I can feel that this power has infinite potential, just like the desert itself. Zeon's lips curled up with excitement. He remained focused on his control ability. I will wait until I have completely mastered it. Until that day, I will hide it and endure. His expression changed with a wild look. This entire desert, this entire world will be my stage. Transition as the sun sets. He observed meticulously. So this is the quarry. There's even a checkpoint. It looks quite normal. The guide's voice was low and threatening. Hey, you there, follow me. Zeon spoke helplessly. You still haven't untied me. He gritted his teeth and said, if you say one more word, I'll shut you up myself. He immediately lowered his voice pleadingly. All right, I get it. His eyes were highly alert. Something's not right. She maintained her calm demeanor. Because he's the only survivor, don't overthink it. It's probably just luck. Yongbyum's face was a mix of complex emotions. No, it wasn't luck. He frowned, then hesitantly spoke. What the hell? A mysterious hole suddenly appeared. That hole is... Yongbyum walked slowly with a doubtful expression. I should have asked for his name. I have a feeling I'll meet him again someday. On the bustling streets, people came and went, laughing as they walked. The taverns here were also bustling with customers coming and going. Zeon glanced around with an air of utter indifference. He thought the mine only had tunnels, but it seems to have everything. It looks like people actually live here. The guide angrily grabbed his gun and untied Zeon's restraints. Be quiet, shut your mouth and wait here until the supervisor arrives. Seeing that furious attitude, Zeon couldn't help but wonder. Are you just going to leave like that? The guide yelled, pointing directly at him. Do you want me to put a bullet in your head before I go? Zeon stood there with a bewildered expression. No, I mean, what if I do something here? He turned his back angrily and walked away. Do whatever the hell you want. What can trash like you possibly accomplish? Zeon's eyes darted left and right, observing everything around him. What an idiot. I'm hungry, so I'll take a walk around. Is there anywhere to eat around here? Then he approached an old man nearby. Excuse me, could I ask something? As soon as he finished speaking, his eyes widened in astonishment. On the wall was an advertisement with the motto, "Let our labor illuminate Neo's soul." Seeing him staring intently at it, the other person suddenly spoke up. What do you think? A wonderful life motto, isn't it? The other person's rough, calloused hands clenched. It's so true it's laughable. Exactly. Isn't Neo's soul's energy source mana crystals? Zeon sat down, resting his chin in his hand, deep in thought. What do you mean, if not mana? Then what other energy source is there? The other person pointed directly at him. It's you. The other person, Klexi, chuckled slyly. It's the rats like you just follow orders, and when we need more we just add them. Isn't that the perfect energy source? Zeon continued to eat his skewer of grilled meat nonchalantly, mumbling, You talk a lot for someone I just met. Your peers are probably all underground by now. The old man chuckled and replied calmly, At my age, everything interests me. Then Klexi rested his chin in his hand, observing Zeon thoughtfully. So, what's it like inside a sandworm? Does it feel like being in your mother's womb? Zeon froze, his eyes wide with surprise. The rumor spread that fast. Klexi threw his head back and burst into laughter. This dumb kid, I can tell you'll be turning into sandworm droppings soon. This isn't a refuge for you to escape to. Zeon, still chewing, looked up in confusion. Refuge? I came here to make money. The old man suddenly stopped laughing and pointed behind him. Bullshit, let me show you something interesting. Look over there. In the distance were shelves piled with old, tattered, rotting crates. Seeing this, Zeon looked at the old man with suspicion. Are you senile? You call this junk interesting? What is that pile? Klexi propped his chin on his hand and smiled proudly. These are things I've gathered bit by bit. The old man's gaze unconsciously flickered to Zeon with a hidden meaning. The ultimate fate of those who come here, and your future as well. Klexi recalled for a moment and then recounted quietly. Everyone who first comes here resists going into the mine. You know that, right? The mana crystal mine is that kind of place. Fearing death if they went inside, they sold everything they could to survive, even selling themselves cheaply. But they were only prolonging the inevitable. No problems were solved, and what little they had gradually disappeared. In the end, everyone met the same fate. They told themselves it would be more bearable to be swallowed by the mine. The old man paused and recounted with a sad expression. They say that when people die, they leave behind their reputation, but when trash dies, they only leave behind their bodies. Zeon suddenly frowned, looking intrigued. Seeing this, Klexi pressed on. I'm curious to see what you'll leave behind. Zeon jumped up and asked decisively. Forget it, how much? The old man chuckled excitedly and named a price, 10 sol. Zeon slammed the table in surprise, his eyes wide with shock. Are you crazy? Is this meat made of gold? Klexi smiled philosophically and explained. Everything here is precious. Even the skewer you just threw away is worth 9 sol. Hearing this, his lips curled into a sarcastic smirk. What cheap meat are you using to charge such a high price? Sorry, I don't have that much money. The people around them suddenly stood up, weapons in hand. Zeon stood there, still mocking. You probably see I'm new here and want to rob me, don't you? Have you lost your mind? 10 sol. Everyone from the cook to the ordinary citizens had their tools ready in hand. Zeon stood there laughing and taunting. Sorry, but I'm definitely not paying. Deal with it yourself. Just then, he noticed the crowd behind him. A cold sweat broke out on the back of his neck. Zeon gathered all his courage and turned his head to look. Seeing the scene, he stood frozen in place. Klexi, seeing this, chuckled mockingly. Don't you see? Why do you think an old man like me can do business so calmly right here in this mine? Directly behind him was a dark abyss, but the sharp, cold eyes and pointed blades were clearly visible. Klexi chuckled and took the initiative to ask, so, what do you plan to do now? Being cornered in such a predicament, Zeon slammed the table in anger. He argued loudly, calm down, old man. Where am I supposed to get that money? Charging 10 sol for this meat is outrageous. Let's take it slow, we can negotiate. However, Klexi grinned and replied softly. Short on cash, don't worry, I'm not unreasonable, we can trade for something else. As soon as he finished speaking, he noticed the stone in Zeon's pocket. That's right, the mana crystal in your pocket should be enough. Zeon's eyes flickered, a thought crossing his mind. Even that has spread as a rumor. Klexi smiled and ordered, hand it over quickly. I'll buy it at a very fair price. Zeon maintained a firm and decisive attitude. Stop messing around. Do you know what I had to do to protect it? As soon as he finished speaking, a large hand grabbed his head, restraining him. Senior, is there no other way, or can I have a deferral? We can. With that, the man used all his strength to violently press his head down onto the table. The man loudly looked at Klexi for his opinion. Boss, how long are you going to listen to its rambling? Just bury this brat alive, this kind of person. As soon as he finished speaking, the man's hand suddenly floated in the air, still rambling about a sand-spraying gun. After regaining his senses, the man felt a sword lightly graze his muscular arm. A part of his arm fell off, causing those around to be momentarily frightened. That sword mark was made by an enraged Zeon himself. His eyes were now shining brightly, filled with indignation. However, it was just a dream. The mocking voices of the surrounding crowd still echoed in his ears. Hey, hey. The man tightly gripped his head and shoved him forward. Look here, he even frowned and asked, are you all right? You've been zoning out for a while. Dreaming. Zeon bitterly realized it was all an illusion, damn it. Zeon, seemingly angered, threw the stone towards Klexi. Seeing the old man pick it up, he gritted his teeth in anger. This was the magic stone he desperately wanted to keep. Klexi picked up the stone and examined it with a contemplative expression. This size. The old man pondered for a moment and then gave a price. Looking at it, it's probably around 100 sol. Hearing the price, he angrily slammed the table. Are you kidding me? It should be worth at least 300 sol, and you're saying 100. Klexi calmly replied, everything is scarce here. If I knew, I would have just sold it as sandworm fertilizer. Zeon slammed the table hard in anger. His hands trembled, veins bulging. These bastards. If I wanted to, I could easily take down this old man, but it's not time yet, not yet. A moment later, he raised his head and gave a sly smile. Give me more change, old man. The people around were sniffling with disdain. Klexi, as if getting his wish, nodded. All right, keep it safe. This place is full of pickpockets and robbers. I even see one right in front of me. He pointed his hand behind him, towards the pile of old, tattered crates. Consider this your first transaction. I'll give you an extra item as change. Just pick one from there. Looking around at the pile of items, he definitively stated, I will give you whatever you take. Zeon started rummaging through the pile of junk. Seriously, I thought there would be something interesting, but it's all trash. There's nothing decent to choose from. Klexi quietly watched his movements. This kid is truly interesting. That attitude of rather dying than taking a loss. It's been a long time since I've seen someone so full of life. Zeon was searching when he stopped. Nothing better, this one. The old man came closer to look and explained that a merchant caravan left it behind. You probably won't find anything better than this. Zeon picked it up, looked around and decided, I'll take this. Khaleesi heard this and said mockingly, you only have an interest in strange, useless things. Zeon nodded, deliberately ignoring him. Yes, I know. After walking a few steps, he suddenly stopped. By the way, what's your name, old man? The old man ran after him and replied loudly, Khaleesi. Zeon turned back and smiled faintly. Old man Khaleesi, it's best if we never meet again. The old man chuckled and turned to leave. Who knows, kid? Meanwhile, the hourglass continued to race against time. Zeon looked down at the fine sand in it with a curious expression. About 10 minutes left. In the miner's living quarters, Zeon plopped down on the floor and took out his phone to dial. All right, let's begin. Inhale. He sat and breathed seriously, as if helping to relax his mind. Exhale. Inhale. After a while, he gently opened his eyes. Exhale. He used all the strength he had just absorbed to move the nearby hourglass. Zeon's serious face was suddenly reflected on the hourglass. As soon as he saw this, he angrily put it in his pocket. So it has nothing to do with my awakening. After calming down, he pondered, thinking he had definitely never seen it before. He thought about the hourglass, contemplating, but felt something very strange. It was as if it was prepared for him, familiar as if it was calling to him, but also so new. What was this feeling? Right then, a man named Park Manhwa kicked the door open and stormed in. You're the new guy who just arrived today, right? He pointed directly at me and shouted, Hey you dog, why haven't you crawled your way to the Ormine yet? I'm Park Manhwa. Are you going to make me come here and drag you by the neck? I frowned and replied frankly, I'm not a dog, I'm Zeon. You didn't tell me where to go in the first place. As soon as I finished speaking, Manhwa landed a divine punch that sent me flying. Manhwa clenched his fist tightly. You. He lunged forward and roared, Shut that stinking mouth of yours. Manhwa continued to punch and curse. What, you dare talk back to me? Do you think I'm nice? Zeon tried to shield himself and endured his curses. You're a useless piece of trash who can't even awaken. And you dare to be so bold, you bastard. A piece of garbage like you should just shut up and take your beating. After a moment, Manhwa stopped punching and ordered loudly, All right, hurry up and follow me. Zeon slowly sat up, holding his aching body, and watched Manhwa's retreating back. He gathered all his courage and dared to speak. What a deplorable personality. Park Manhwa, I will remember this name. You are the one I will definitely kill. Meanwhile, at the entrance to Mine Sector 3. The miner saw him appear and politely said, Hello, Mr. Park. Manhwa briefly glanced over and ordered, Get this guy his equipment quickly. Yes. The miner helped him get dressed. Manhwa walked ahead and began to explain the regulations. The cost of equipment rental and food will be deducted directly from your wages. Dig up magic stones and bring them back here. Do you understand? Answer me quickly. Hearing this, I was a little surprised. Is that all? How much is the wage? Zeon scratched his head, looking at him blankly. I need things to be clear first. As soon as he finished speaking, Manhwa grabbed a nearby pickaxe and struck me directly on the helmet. He shouted curses incessantly. You demand wages without even picking up a pickaxe. The helmet cost will also be deducted. Remember that well, you bastard. Zeon lowered his head, cursing angrily in his mind. Damn it. Next, Manhwa menacingly ordered, Throw this guy into mine shaft 972. The miner saw this and tried to intervene, but mine shaft 972 is still. Seeing him defending me, Manhwa shouted threateningly, Or do you want to go in there instead of him? Do you want to go? Answer me quickly. You. The miner fell silent, not daring to argue. Understood, let's go. The miner gently guided me and reminded, Don't even dream of crawling out before digging up magic stones. I'll really kill you. Zeon stubbornly ignored him. Whatever. Manhwa, standing behind, suddenly replied menacingly, I can still hear you, kid. A while later, the miner led me deep into the dark mine. On the very day Park Manhwa lost all his money gambling, I showed up. While walking, I stopped in astonishment. There's a casino here too. The miner nodded and added, Of course, from prostitution, drinking to drugs, it's no different from Neo Soul. I looked up and wondered, with a few idiots like Park Manhwa, the business here probably isn't doing too well. This made the miner chuckle unconsciously. Your mouth is quite sharp. Zeon stood there idly wondering, Do I really have to mine? My skin is so delicate. It bruises very easily. My hands trembled as I gripped the iron railing beside me. You'll probably be fine. The miner suddenly lowered his head, lost in thought. No one has ever been injured in there. Not a single person. Zeon calmly looked ahead. We're here. As soon as I entered, I couldn't help but be surprised. So this is mine shaft 972. Zeon, carrying the pickaxe on his shoulder, quietly walked inside. I just need to dig for magic stones, right? I'll be right back, you won't be coming back. The miner quietly told me a few things. More than a dozen people have gone missing in there. I personally knew 4 of them. No one knows if they are alive or dead or why. He left me there alone and quietly went back up. I'm very sorry and thank you. His eyes widened and he stared into the distance like a soulless person. Having agreed to enter a place no one dared to go, Zeon realized in shock and stood there, calling up from the depths, wait, so does that mean they all died? Where are you going? Are you leaving me here alone, hey? Seeing no response, I stood there with a disappointed expression. You're really leaving, for real? I picked up my tools and started digging. These bastards, just because he's in a bad mood, they throw me into this corner. While digging, my tools suddenly flew and hit me in the face. May all of you rot and die. Seeing the pickaxe suddenly move, I rushed to chase after it. Come back here, quick. Whether by accident or design, I wandered into another dark place. What is this? Zeon stood in the vast space, observing silently. I was too angry earlier to notice, but there's mana everywhere today. Is it because they are ordinary people that those people couldn't sense it? I took off my helmet and covered my nose and mouth with my hand. The deeper I went, the denser the mana became. If I were a normal person, I would have been overloaded with mana by now. Where is all this mana coming from? Suddenly, a beam of light flashed before me. As soon as I approached, I jumped up with joy. Found it. Here's my pickaxe. Zeon stepped forward excitedly, but the ground suddenly caved in inexplicably. Even though the handle is broken, at least I got it back. Suddenly, a black hole appeared directly below. Zeon hadn't realized yet and was still grinning. Looks like I'm still lucky. As soon as he finished speaking, his eyes widened as he looked down into the hole. An invisible force pulled me down, making me struggle to escape. Wait, what is this? Don't tell me this is a portal. That kid is as good as dead. Soon he disappeared, leaving only the helmet and pickaxe lying on the ground. Suddenly the light from the headlamp shone on that broken-in-half leg. A distant scene suddenly rushed back, Zeon standing alone in the rain with a toy in hand. His parents abandoned him, so what could he expect? He just hoped he wouldn't die right in front of my house. What kind of life did I once want? Because of hunger in the pouring rain, Zeon went to steal food and was chased and beaten. Do you want to die? You have the guts to steal our food. I just didn't want to be hungry. Later, as he grew up, he even stole precious stones, causing employees and everyone else to chase him. Catch that brat quickly. I also used to have dreams of my own. All around him were ear-piercing curses. Do you know who you just killed? Let's see where you can run now. Your pathetic life ends here. You dog. Whether I am frozen in fear or running away, I don't need to know how it is. Just keep it breathing, even if it means breaking its leg. I have to get a life where I don't have to fear death every day. That day Zeon had to endure scolding and insults every day. Drag that scoundrel to Jiryong, that's roughly it, just a normal life. After a moment of rambling, he was pulled into a strange, deserted place. He slowly woke up, his hand quickly going to his head. My head hurts so much. What the heck? Why is it so hot here? Curiously, he reached out and touched the ground below, only to realize in horror that it was ashes. Zeon stopped, sweat pouring down like a stream. He unconsciously looked up and realized, it's all over, that's right, if I fell through the gate. Seeing seas of fire all around, fear arose in his heart. This is inside a dungeon. He only saw something falling right in front of him. With an unwilling expression, he pursed his lips and tightly gripped the stone in his hand. Then Zeon swung his hand and threw the stone away, shouting angrily, it's too hot, damn it. Next, sweat poured out like a stream. He blew gently on his palm. Damn it, so this isn't a dream, a dungeon that even Neo's soul had to prepare all its resources to deal with. Zeon looked at the marks on his palm and muttered to himself, this must be volcanic ash, right? It feels like sand being baked in fire. If I don't get out quickly, my lungs will be cooked too. Next, he knelt down and tore his pants, and then used it as a mask and tied it. Alright, if there's an entrance to the dungeon, there must be an exit. The most likely location is the highest peak in this dungeon. Near that peak, he looked at the erupting volcano in front of him and broke out in a sweat, thinking, I'll die of heat and this pile of ashes if I stand still anyway. Now is the best time when there are no demonic beasts in sight. I'll take the shortest path at the fastest speed possible, Zeon thought, and immediately ran away. He only saw a determined look. That's right, I'm Zeon, a guy who never knows the word give up. Then he quickly jumped from below onto the cliff and breathed a sigh of relief. That was close. But when he saw the ground beneath him crack, he cursed angrily. Damn it. Drenched in sweat, he reached forward desperately. Please, please. Some rocks fell into the molten lava, while others were luckier and managed to cling to the nearby cliff. He braced himself with his hands and shouted, This damn lava doesn't scare me at all. Zeon, with the strength of his ancestors, managed to escape death. His panting echoed ceaselessly. Next, he clenched his fists in anger, and then frowned and yelled, "Park Maho, you scoundrel, if I get out of here you're dead." After shouting his anger away, he regained his composure. The more angry he got, the hotter it became. Damn it. Zeon clenched his fists with determination. The thought arose in his mind, I must survive this at all costs. I will struggle with all my might. I must return. For more times, it seems this time he carried a great will to persevere. He looked at the terrain ahead and murmured, "Just 4 more jumps and I'll be there. Don't stop, just act, don't think too much. My life in such a corner, I will never give up." Never ending here, Zeon, with all his courage, jumped forward. But what awaited him now was the giant maw of a creature emerging from the hot lava. Zeon was like an irresistible morsel, swallowed whole by the creature. After successfully snatching the delicious morsel, it quickly plunged into the lava. Before him were fire bubbles boiling vigorously due to high temperatures. The image of a giant crocodile moving on the surface of the lava flow appeared. At the same time, a gentle stream of energy moved from the monster's body. Zeon, sweating profusely, hung himself with one hand pointing down. This is crazy. How can it be so hot? Even the volcanic ash is melting. Next, you told yourself I vaguely guessed it, so it turns out I can actually control volcanoes too. That's what saved my life, but only to feel the pain of falling hard onto the body of that giant crocodile. You lay on its rough, armored skin and tiredly thought, isn't this too hot, this dungeon? The environment is more poisonous than demonic beasts. My nose feels like it's being roasted by this heat and pile of stuff. I can't breathe anymore, my consciousness is fading. Zeon lay prostrate on the ground, muttering in a low voice, "Am I dying?" Suddenly, he clenched his fist. Next, he struggled to lift his body and stand up, less than a minute after declaring he would survive. He hadn't even had a girlfriend yet. Dying like this is truly unacceptable. Your foot stomped hard on the ground. Zeon executed the skill with one hand while squinting suggestively. "Your Majesty, King of Hell, I'm sorry, but please take the crocodile's skin bag as a replacement for me." Only to hear the giant crocodile's shrill cry of pain. You glared and yelled angrily. Suddenly a low voice echoed, "You possess quite an interesting ability." Zeon was startled and looked around. What is that voice? The King of Hell. The owner of that voice exclaimed with delight, "You can control sand, that's really cool," but immediately shouted, "That damn thing." Only to see the image of a person rushing straight from the air towards the giant crocodile. An old man with a smile on his lips appeared. "At this moment you spoke, that old man is falling." Diordan, with an excited expression, was diving down like an arrow. Diordan gripped the hilt of his sword tightly. He leaped down with a strongly amused expression. Zeon stared at this scene, thinking to himself, "It's coming," only to see Diordan like an arrow stab directly into the giant crocodile's head, sending rocks and dirt flying around. You were also sent flying by this pressure. A great disturbance, like an earth-shattering explosion, just occurred. Some small rocks were flung into the hot lava flow. You hid behind a rock, trying to keep yourself from being blown away. Shrill screams echoed throughout the space. Zeon, with a bewildered face, covered one of his ears. "What just happened? I can't hear anything anymore. Why is there such a terrifying shockwave? Could my eardrums be torn? Who is that old man anyway?" Suddenly you seemed to realize something and looked up. Wait, it's the old man from earlier. But first, where did the monster go? Before you was Diordan's cool demeanor as he stood before the giant crocodile. Zeon trembled at this scene and told himself, "He's too far superior, completely out of my league. This is not just the level of a strong awakened person. He is truly a being on a completely different level." At the same time, the image of a foot stepping forward appeared. Immediately the ground beneath shattered. His voice echoed at the same time, "What is it?" While Zeon still stared, Diordan asked in a low voice, "I'm asking your name." Then he reminded you to answer in 3 seconds. Next Diordan began to count down, 3, 2. Those footsteps continued to approach. 1. Zeon was still sitting there, staring at the opponent. He appeared in front of you and announced, "Time's up." Next Diordan reached behind him and grabbed the hilt of his weapon. "If you're not going to open your mouth, you'll be shocked right now," thinking to yourself, "I heard it." His pupils flashed red as he lowered his voice, "Die." Zeon, realizing the situation, quickly shouted, "Wait, hold on, stop, I don't know what's happening, but please spare my life." Diordan heard this and realized with surprise, "So you're not mute." Next he repeated, "I just asked your name." You immediately replied, "My name is Zeon." Diordan heard this and turned around mockingly. "Zeon, what a silly name." Zeon frowned, then wrinkled his brow and pouted, "Silly? I don't know how great this old man's name is that he's criticizing others' names. Suddenly he slammed his sword into the ground, creating a sound that echoed throughout the space. Zeon was so scared he closed his eyes tightly, while Diordan calmly said, "Diordan, my name is Diordan." You were still in shock and frowned, questioning, "What do you think you're doing?" He calmly asked back, "What is what?" Zeon shouted angrily, "You always call me stupid. Why do you like threatening me like this? I am very grateful that you saved my life, but what did I do wrong?" Diordan didn't even listen to the end and immediately cut him off. "Hey you idiot. As far as I can see, you've fallen into a trap." Zeon, although not satisfied, was still curious to see his actions. "He's ignoring me completely. What is that?" Diordan didn't hide it and explained to him. "That's a phenomenon that occurs when the mana in the dungeon is overloaded. The dungeon will create another entrance to protect itself and expel excess mana through that crack. At the same time it will also pull living creatures into it. That is called a trap." And then he happily gave a thumbs up. "An ordinary person would never see one in their lifetime. Your luck is as dark as soot." The kid frowned and cursed under his breath when he was openly insulted. "Damn you Park Mayho, you bastard." At the same time Diordan spoke. "Hey you idiot." When he heard that, he turned around angrily and said, "I told you not to call me an idiot anymore." He didn't pay attention and put his hand on Zeon's head and turned it to the side. "Let me show you why you are stupid." Zeon exclaimed in bewilderment. "What?" And he smirked and suggested, "Now focus your mana into your eyes and concentrate." You asked with a little suspicion, "What are you going to do?" Diordan didn't explain but told him to follow. "Shut up and do as I say. Increase the purity of your mana. Imagine you are seeing with mana instead of your eyes and feel that mana flow, only to see a completely different scene appear in your pupils." As soon as he saw that, sweat poured out incessantly. "What the hell is that?" Diordan behind him said sternly. "It seems you can finally see it. That is a monster with the ability to turn invisible. Unsuspecting prey will be devoured by it without even understanding why they died. Just like you." Zeon's face turned pale. He told himself, "Something like that is right next to me. And yet I don't feel any presence or danger. If this old man hadn't helped me just now, I would have surely died without understanding what was happening." Having been saved twice, you still cast a reluctant glance. Zeon looked at Diordan and curiously wondered to himself, "How strong is this man?" Next you cautiously asked, "Who exactly are you?" When he heard that, he turned around and cursed, "Are you really stupid? I told you I'm Diordan, you brat." Zeon sweated and yelled with wide eyes, "That's not it. Who are you to possess such terrifying power, and where is this damn place?" Diordan casually replied, "In a dungeon, and now it's my hunting ground." You exclaimed in surprise. "Hunting ground?" Diordan nodded. "Yes, it's a hunting ground. You want to know who I am?" Then he tilted his head back provocatively. "Then use those eyes of yours to see for yourself." Suddenly the space around the two of them shook violently. That volcano felt like it was about to erupt. Zeon raised his hands to cover his ears and gritted his teeth. "What is this?" Next, with a bewildered expression, you looked up. "What is that old man doing?" When Zeon saw the scene above his head, he frowned and shouted, "What the hell is going on?" At the same time Diordan's voice called out, "Hey you idiot." He had the most excited expression on his face, smiling. "If you still have any value, find a way to survive on your own." As soon as he saw Diordan causing a pile of lava rocks to fall on him, he yelled, "You crazy old man," then gritted his teeth and questioned, "Why are these bastards running so fast?" At the same time something flew by and grazed his arm. It didn't stop but continued to rush past his heels. Zeon, holding his injured arm, frowned and wondered, "Damn it, these monsters, they're so fast, I can't escape no matter how much I run. Why are they always biting my left side?" Next you used all your strength to point your index finger forward and attack. But Zeon's opponent was not a pushover and immediately counterattacked. After taking those combo attacks, you immediately covered your face with your hands. Zeon's face was covered in sweat. He muttered to himself, "Damn it, even with sand or God's eye, I can't keep up. Damn it, what should I do now? If this continues, I'm doomed. That old man saved me twice. If I die here now, I'll be a real idiot." Suddenly a voice echoed, "Hey, aren't you going to answer?" You asked yourself in confusion, "What?" Diordan pointed at his face and scowled, "You brat." You wondered confusingly, "What is he rambling about?" Diordan impatiently questioned, "Are you mute?" Zeon thought to himself that his ears were broken and he couldn't hear clearly. And then you determinedly affirmed to yourself that you had to find a way to see enemies that the naked eye couldn't keep up with. Zeon held his head and urged himself, "Think, you have to think of something, you fool." At this moment a thought appeared, startling him. "Let me show you exactly why you are so stupid. Focus your mana into your eyes and concentrate. Increase the purity of your mana. Don't look with your eyes anymore. Just look as if you're seeing with your mana, Zeon muttered. His pupils glowing amber, feel the mana. Suddenly, in front of your eyes, the image of a creature with red eyes appeared, charging towards you. Zeon not only unafraid, but also decisively tore it apart. At this moment he raised his eyebrows and reminded himself, sensing the magic emanating from those mythical beasts, seeing with his mind, not with his eyes. When their mana approached, counterattack at the shortest possible distance. Then he turned his head back, and a thought simultaneously appeared in his mind. That old man, could it be that? He had calculated this far in advance. Zeon simultaneously used his abilities and loudly questioned, "Who exactly are you, old man?" Diordan slashed through the monster and exclaimed excitedly, "This is fun, so exciting, it's been so long since I felt my blood boil like this." Only to see streams of scorching lava erupting from all sides, and giant roars echoed through the space simultaneously. He didn't seem to intend to stop, but with a glare and a smile, "More, give me more." And then Diordan powerfully struck, splitting the giant crocodile in two. "Come at me, all of you." At Diordan's attack, the mythical beast fell right in front of him. Diordan arrogantly turned his back and walked away. What a shame. Finally, he swung his sword and ended its life. Then Diordan quietly walked away. "What a pity, I've only just started warming up. Why are there so few monsters in the dungeon lately? I remember my old days." Zeon panted, his eyes wide with astonishment. "This is terrifying, I'm starting to feel sorry for the monsters." He could only stand there dumbfounded. "He took care of all those giant monsters, I'm speechless, I don't know what to say anymore." Suddenly he burst into a hearty laugh. "But it seems there are no more monsters left, are there?" Unexpectedly, and Tremor instantly extinguished his budding smile. Damn it! A massive surge of power was unleashed into the air. The earthquake shook the ground, making Zeon unable to stand steadily. He nauseously collapsed, vomiting everything from his insides. Zeon wiped his mouth curiously and asked, "What was that strange sound? What was it again?" Doden's face was cold and stern. "That was the final boss's roar," he exclaimed in surprise. "The boss," he explained in a deep voice. "Every dungeon has a boss, the source of the entire area, the strongest in the dungeon." Diordan observed what was gradually appearing in the darkness. "And that's also why I'm here." Zeon's eyes widened, unable to hide his astonishment. "The final boss, what is that thing?" His lips curled into a half-smile. "It's finally showing its face." Before Diordan's eyes, a giant beast flew out from the surge of power, a crimson drake. Zeon's smile completely vanished, his eyes fixed on it. "A crimson drake, isn't that a dragon on the contrary?" He couldn't hide his excitement. "Unfortunately it's not, but it's at least rank B." His voice became increasingly stammered. "At least rank B, that means that massive, ferocious form appearing before them is its territory." Hearing this, Diordan patted his head in praise. "You brat actually know about territories." Zeon's voice deepened. His face became serious. "I've only heard about it. Monsters from rank B and above also have their own characteristics like humans." His eyes didn't leave the crimson drake. "Just like awakened individuals are divided by ranks, if they possess a red territory, they are of the combat type." Zeon was still speaking when it started to act, "And those with a blue territory like that one are." The crimson drake spread its wings and unleashed a blast of ice magic towards them. He panicked in fear. "Ice magic, damn it, that's too powerful." Unexpectedly, Diordan quickly used his sword, swinging it twice to form a cross, tearing it apart. Zeon's jaw dropped as he watched the shattered ice pieces fall like rain. Time seemed to stop before his eyes. It made no sense, all the experience and knowledge he had. The fierce battle continued, and in the presence of this old man, it all became meaningless. Diordan continued with another strike along the crimson drake's spine. Immediately it raised its sharp claws, preparing to attack. But the crimson drake was blocked by him. Even more surprisingly, the luring the tiger away from its mountain move had Diordan caught in its claws. Drake opened its massive maw, intending to use its final move. In this situation, he let out a delighted smile. Diordan only needed one hand to touch it to execute mana. This is indeed the smile of a triumphant warrior. "It hurts, doesn't it, Drake?" He tightly gripped Crayon with both hands. "Don't worry that pain, I will personally help you end it." Then swung and knocked down Crimson Drake. "Because today is your Memorial Day." Seeing the situation was not good, immediately fled. "Damn it, today is my Memorial Day." Behind you, undefined mana streams are flying chaotically. These crazy guys don't know what's going on, but let's calm down and talk to each other. With no other choice, Zeon channeled mana into both hands to create a shield. He struggled to hold on and resist. Under that immense power, Zeon's legs sank deeper and deeper into the ground. Seriously, go fight somewhere far away. The aftershocks alone are enough to kill people. He struggled to escape this predicament. On the contrary, Diorden, flying in the air, was extremely excited, so happy, so thrilled. He sat perched on Crimson Drake's head, carelessly controlling it. It feels like we're at an amusement park, doesn't it, Crimson Drake? Then, Diorden swung his sword and poked its head, causing Crimson Drake to fall. The remaining mana from the attack he swiftly moved towards. The event happened so fast that he was stunned for a few seconds. Just as it was about to approach, he snapped back to reality. Damn it. But it seemed too late. He was knocked far away. Zeon rolled on the ground like a ball. Then he was flung off the ground and flew out of the central area. Zeon looked back with eyes full of despair and regret. His pupils became blurred for a moment. The fierce battle was still raging ahead. It seemed no one noticed a shrimp like him. Diorden furiously raised his fist. Is that all you've got, Drake? With just one blow, he made its head bow to the ground. As the dungeon boss, you have to bow your head like that all day. You're disgracing the final boss title. Crimson Drake furiously gathered mana from its mouth. Diorden became even more excited, so dungeon bosses can use moves like this too. A massive force was unleashed from the Drake's beak. It tore through the wind and headed straight for him. Crimson Drake's mouth smoked. Its face looked as if a heavy burden had been lifted. But Diorden's voice echoed from somewhere, making it startled. Looking for me. To capture you, I had to wander the desert for a whole year. A sword shot out from somewhere and forcefully embedded itself into Crimson Drake's body. It painfully opened its mouth and wailed. He stood tall, gripping the sword tightly. The goal is to use your heart to forge this sword, Crayon. His eyes gleamed, his voice turned cold. Now die. Crayon slowly sank deeper into Crimson Drake's heart. A crimson mana stream was gradually released. Along with it, it enveloped Crayon. The mana was completely absorbed into Crayon, making it glow. Diorden's gaze did not leave its upgrading process. After absorbing all the mana, Crayon seemed to have donned a more powerful new guise. He then held it in his hand and admired it. Diorden let out a delighted smile. You've gotten stronger again, Crayon. Suddenly Zeon's voice came from somewhere and caught his attention. You're talking to a sword, are you really crazy? Luckily he could still crawl, but to take down that Drake, you're a terrifyingly strong old man. Diorden replied casually. You idiot, you're still alive. He had calmed down by this time. Yes, I almost died, but... He recalled the moment he was thrown off the cliff. His mind was blank, unable to react. Seconds later, he slapped his face to regain his composure. Zeon raised his fist to use mana. He fell into the sand support he had just created. Zeon narrowly escaped, and couldn't help but be narcissistic. Damn, I survived again, I'm not too bad really. Returning to the present, he sat up and spoke. I was beaten to a pulp by the aftershocks from this crazy old man, so my reflexes got better. That's how I survived. Diorden bared his teeth and chuckled at an idiot. Well, that's pretty good. Then he picked him up like a puppy. It's over. This dungeon is about to collapse. We have to leave here quickly. His face showed dissatisfaction as he questioned. Why did you grab me? Diorden's smile did not reassure people, but rather caused an indescribable sense of unease in the viewer. It was indeed so. He powerfully threw Zeon into a vortex. Goodbye, you idiot. All he could do was curse. Hey, you crazy old man, you son of a bitch, you're even worse than Park Maho. As soon as he finished speaking, he appeared in another dimension. It turned out the vortex was an energy barrier, and he flew out of it, rolling onto the sand. Zeon choked on sand. Where is this place? At this moment, Diorden calmly stepped out. What's strange about it? We're out of the dungeon. The cracks formed when the dungeon collapsed are the exit. His voice was weak and trembling. Then why didn't we just walk out? But he ignored him and said in a low voice, listen carefully, idiot. His large and imposing figure stood before him. I need your sand manipulation energy. But with your current weakness, you can't help me at all, so I'll give you a choice. Diorden pointed a hand down one path. If you go this way, you'll reach Neo's soul. Do you want to go back there and continue your old life? Then he pointed to himself. Or will you follow me and become a slightly better idiot? Zeon naively, his mind still unclear, asked, what are you suddenly talking about? How long would I have to follow you? Diorden became more somber. I don't know, maybe a few months, a few years, even a few decades. We'll know when the time comes. He was stunned by his words, so choose now. Diorden relentlessly pushed the fighting spirit within him to either return home to his familiar, easy life, or embark on a gamble with a 99% death rate. His voice was decisive and firm, making him ponder. Choose. Xian laughed arrogantly. A choice? Are you kidding me? He pointed forward defiantly. Hey, old man, have you lost your mind? As if hearing a joke, he sneered. You want me to leave my home, my warm bed and my shade, to wander in this scorching desert with you? But he was met with Diordan's rock-solid determination. Yes, that's exactly what I mean. He let out a breath of indifference. Then there's nothing more to discuss. Xian quietly walked past him. I'll follow you. He lowered his voice. I naturally hate anyone I want revenge on, but I'm still too weak to get revenge now. Then he smiled and looked back. And that includes you, old man. Standing before Diordan's massive figure, he spoke at length. You are stronger than anyone I have ever met in my life, and I have a feeling I will never meet anyone stronger than you. He also laughed heartily in response. That's why I dare to assert that you will die soon. Xian clenched his fists with surging spirit. I assert that if I follow you, I will become stronger than anyone else. But Diordan sneered contemptuously. That confidence of yours will one day make you regret it. Then he turned his back decisively. Come on, follow me, you fool. The road is long. Xian ran after him. I told you not to call me a fool. The sun's rays filtered through the thin layers of clouds, shining down on the harsh desert. Xian, covered in sweat and grime, grumbled, Can we slow down a bit? He reached his arm out, trying to grasp at straws. Old man, we've been marching for 6 hours. Let's rest for a moment. The only response was Diordan's cold back and silence. He clutched his head and yelled with all his might. It's so gloomy, why don't you say a word? Are you some immature teenager? Why are your moods changing so rapidly? At this moment, his eyes lost focus, becoming dull, and he had no strength to speak. It's so hot, 40 degrees, no, maybe it's 50 degrees. His legs felt as heavy as 1,000 pounds, trudging laboriously through the sand. These damn sand dunes are making it impossible for me to walk at this rate. I'll either die of heatstroke or dehydration. Xian began to collapse. What the hell am I supposed to do now? Diordan broke the silence. There is truly no one more foolish than you in this world. You have power in your hands, and you don't even know how to use 1% of it. He looked up and asked, What do you mean? He explained as he walked. To have the ability to control sand and yet struggle to walk on it is truly pathetic. Xian grumbled again. It's easy for you to say. I only awakened a few days ago. He looked at him sideways. So what? Xian kept rambling, making Diordan grit his teeth in annoyance. I'm just F rank. I'm not a high-level awakened like you. He turned back and spat in his face. Stop saying those stupid things. What does it matter if you're rank F or rank S? Xian was stunned by Diordan's scolding. Do you think everyone is born rank S? If there were such people, they would just be lucky enough to be blessed by heaven. His face looked fierce. So what, just because you're not favored, are you going to live your whole life giving up? Compared to others, you've been blessed too much. He stood there dumbfounded. Blessed. Diordan waved his hand and said softly. So complain less and use your brain to see how to use your abilities. What are your limbs for when your head is empty? Then he placed his hand on Xian's shoulder. That is your ability. Diordan leaned closer and advised sternly. Of course you should understand it best. How to break through that confused mind to grow up, or how to use it, you have to figure it out yourself. Xian was so moved he shed tears. Old man. Suddenly his hand squeezed his shoulder tightly. Understand, you idiot, if you can't figure it out yourself, just consider yourself dead. Xian cried out in pain and begged, I know, loosen your grip. Then he began to train seriously. The sand under his feet began to swirl. It, with his power, formed a sphere that enveloped Xian. He looked around and assessed. The range of sand he could control was about 5 meters, a bit limited, but he could probably do it. Xian took heavy steps, continuing forward. The sand sank up to his ankles like this. If he could solve this, it would save a lot more effort. He decided to try another method. What if he compacted the sand until it was really hard? He successfully scampered on the sand. Great. Now his feet didn't sink anymore. He could walk comfortably. But after only 3 steps, he had to stop and think. But it consumed an enormous amount of mana. It wasn't sustainable in the long run. Xian lifted his leg and moved on to another plan. What if he tried to focus mana on both legs? This way, walking was much easier. He bounced around Diordan. If I adjust this a bit. But this isn't using abilities, so next will be. He just smirked and waited. Diordan was exasperated by his enthusiasm. Constantly experimenting without giving up. It was truly the privilege of youth. He kept thinking his rank was still F, but in terms of power and mana control, he must be among the top. While Diordan was lost in thought, if it were that kid, it would certainly be. He suddenly shouted happily, I succeeded. He ran up and said triumphantly, Old man, look closely. I'm just using mana to control the part of the sand that touches my feet. Now I can walk as light as a feather. Not only that, He also stuck out his middle finger mockingly. An old man like you probably couldn't do this. Now I can walk extremely comfortably. What are you going to do, old man? Suddenly, he received a punch full of affection from Diorden. His words were slightly annoyed. This is too troublesome. Don't waste your energy on useless things, you'll die. Seeing that he was about to pass out, Diorden urged, there's no time, hurry up, you idiot, breathe quickly. His eyelids fluttered open, in front of him was a black expanse. Where was this? Diorden next to him was wolfing down a delicious piece of meat. You're awake, you fool. I'm busy as hell and still have to waste time on you. He even managed to muster a few sarcastic remarks. It's not like we're on vacation. You're covered in wounds and injuries. Zeon looked at the ugly thing lying in front of him, dried meat. Diorden leaned back to rest. Eat and listen to me, this is a story from when I was young. He chewed and said in a low voice, back then, even if you were weak or incompetent, you wouldn't be unable to survive. Protecting the weak was even considered honorable. Can you believe it? Zeon lay quietly, listening to Diorden's story. But as you can see, the world is different now. For you, this kind of world is normal, but I can never get used to it. He didn't forget to add a few harsh words. If you want to die, just lie there comfortably. Otherwise, drag yourself on your own feet, you idiot. Zeon immediately sat up. All right, I know, I'll get up. His gaze fell on Diorden as if he had discovered something. This is... Zeon watched his back, lost in thought. He knew the old man had lived a long time, but he didn't expect it to be that long. He wondered how many years of victories and memories he had accumulated. He couldn't help but have many questions in his heart but dared not speak them. And now he was still sitting there gnawing on the dried meat. Maybe he used saliva to soften the meat instead of chewing. Zeon took a piece of dried meat and put it in his mouth, not forgetting to give Diorden a sideways glance. In this water-scarce desert, that's probably the only way. Why didn't you tell me sooner, really? He chewed and pondered. Instead of giving him fish, it seemed like he was teaching him how to fish. Done, he put his hands behind him and stretched comfortably. I haven't even seen a single fish. In the quiet space he exclaimed, old man, give me another piece. Only to be rejected by Diorden. Shut up. Suddenly Zeon sneezed loudly. He hugged his shivering body with both hands, forgetting that the desert nights were bone-chillingly cold. Before going to sleep, Zeon couldn't help but badmouth him, and that senile old man. He couldn't get any sleep because he kept talking to his sword all night. Diorden still sat there rambling about the past. My old friend, yes, that's right. Zeon cursed him silently. This guy is formidable. Before he could finish speaking, Diorden provided the answer in front of him. My throat is dry. Is there no water around here? Zeon gritted his teeth and swallowed his anger again. He secretly drank it all by himself without even telling me. Immediately he licked the bandage on his arm. He was wringing out the water from his clothes. No wonder everything spilled out while he slept. Zeon moved from one hand to the other. Just you wait, you crazy old man, when I get stronger I'll get you back. Suddenly Diorden called out, hey you idiot. He angrily bit back. He already said he wasn't an idiot. He was a fool. And he also had to surrender to something as stubborn as Zeon. You fool, do you feel anything yet? He blankly felt. Feel what? Zeon looked up at the sky. This tremor made his face start to tense up. There isn't just one. Seconds later, a pack of red-eyed hyenas appeared and surrounded the two of them. Diorden seemed quite familiar with this rabble, the great horned hyenas. They usually hunt at night, but here we encounter them in broad daylight. In his dire straits, he didn't forget to taunt the fool. Do you think you can handle yourself, or do you need my help again? With that said, the great horned hyenas began to charge. Zeon, belligerent, pointed forward and smirked proudly. No need. He shouted resolutely, because I'll survive on my own. His fingertips began to gather grains of sand. He continuously attacked the great horned hyenas. His eyes flashed with a light as he looked behind him. He flicked his hand outwards forcefully, creating cutting arrows on his back that pointed directly at it. And the harsh reality extinguished the initial confidence of these madmen. Damn it, why are there so many? He was exhausted, struggling to breathe before he could be bitten to death. He'd run out of mana and die first. He needed a plan. His brain started working at full capacity. Now, strength wasn't the most important thing. He needed to attack effectively and conserve mana. He began to calm down and think how to fight with the least amount of mana. Think now. Unexpectedly, a great horned hyena lunged and slapped his arm. He struggled wildly, not forgetting to curse. Hey, you demon, I was concentrating, you coward, daring to bite me. Zeon looked at the wound on his arm and gritted his teeth in anger. This madman has made a hole in my arm. It looks like a wind tunnel. Saying something impulsively made him freeze, a wind tunnel. Meanwhile, the great horned hyenas continued to attack in droves. It was getting closer and closer to Zeon's back. He was still muttering to himself, "That's right, a hole, I just need to create a hole." Then he broke into a savage smile like this. Zeon frantically looked up at the pack of great horned hyenas. That's right, why bother blowing their heads off to get tired? Whether they explode or just get a hole, they're both dead. He faced the adversity without flinching. In battle, mana is your life. If you panic and waste mana, you're just killing yourself faster. Zeon continued to control the sharp objects to attack once, taking the whole pack down. Use the least mana to achieve the highest kill efficiency. Fighting requires calculating costs. Then he turned his head to observe Diorden. Look at that old man, killing them one by one slowly. Although his hand was completely in the mouth of a great horned hyena, Diorden still laughed loudly. What are you doing? It's just like an itch. He just needed to twist his arm and its jaws almost fell out. This damn dog. Diorden faced the entire pack of great horned hyenas alone, unfazed. Dogs that bite people shouldn't be allowed to live, right? All of you die here. On the contrary. He grinned with excitement. Zeon didn't have time to dodge. He could only raise his hands to try to block. Wait. That old man is starting again. Diorden, like a demon, lunged forward and swung his sword. It was truly a massacre. A streak of pitch-black mana was unleashed with terrifying power. Its destructive power was so great that it blew away the entire pack of great horned hyenas, except for the one struggling to hold on. It was finally over. His face was ashen and bloodless. That old man is truly insane, I swear. There were still people nearby. The attack had left a long trail and a huge hole. Zeon stood frozen in place. Is he even human? He could do that without using skills. His face relaxed, showing a bit more caution. Damn it, I should be more careful from now on. One slip up and I'm done for. At this moment, Diorden stood on the belly of a great horned hyena. You're deafening me. You're the leader, aren't you? Why are you panicking so much? It thrashed about, pointing its horn directly at him, intending to go down fighting. Diorden still had time to calmly assess his prey. This is defense, damn it, so you're a rank B or higher. Suddenly, a brilliant power burst from the sharp horn, attacking him. Zeon frantically shouted at him first, "Old man, be careful." But over here, he calmly caught the horn with his bare hand. He once again let out a breath of relief. His hand held steady in the air. Careful about what? He released the horn of the great horned hyena, and his arm was a bit numb. It truly helped loosen up the muscles in his shoulder. Then Diorden, feeling refreshed, began to use mana. After his eyes were done, he died. With just one punch, he sent it to the afterlife immediately. Zeon chuckled mockingly at the rain of minced meat. Truly, what was he to worry about others? It would be best to just ignore that monster to save himself a headache. He put on the spoils he had obtained. Master, everything is cleaned up. Shall we go now? Diorden was still fiddling with the horn. Are you still alive, you idiot? Zeon asked with some curiosity. Are you going to take that with you? He replied with a smile. The horn of the great horned hyena is quite useful. It has lightning properties. If crafted properly, it can become a great weapon. Then Diorden threw a dagger into the beast fur on his body and picked it up. Zeon held it in his hand, unable to suppress his curiosity. It was a dagger, meanwhile. He was rummaging through items in space. From now on, fend for yourself, don't expect any more help from me. Diorden held up a piece of meat and meticulously instructed. Their muscles have high toxicity. Eating them will kill you, but the meat from the flank is not poisonous. Seeing his concerned gaze, he urged, What are you looking at? It's almost dawn. Hurry up, you fool. The sunlight appeared, signaling the end of a long night. Zeon continued his journey. Yes, master. He chewed on a piece of dried meat while happily humming a melody. This is great. His chest was full of pieces of meat from the herd of great horned hyenas. He was a little thirsty, but he had meat to eat. His life seemed much easier with a desert walking skill. Traveling was incredibly simple. Zeon didn't forget to stand before Diorden and provoke him. Are you jealous? If you're going out, don't overexert yourself. He also learned how to dodge his attacks. This time I dodged it. Who would have thought that his joy would last less than 3 seconds before he was hit again? Diorden's voice was a bit annoyed. He's truly a madman. I'm exhausted from walking, and he's acting so smug, all because of that useless skill. Zeon still had the energy to stick out his tongue and make a funny face. Come on, I was just kidding, my throat is dry, and you shoved my face in the sand. He said unconvinced. Hey, I'm talking to you, where are you looking? Wait a minute, is this feeling of moisture? Zeon quietly observed Diorden. Am I imagining things? He's also looking in that direction, does that mean? He followed his gaze and saw it was really there, right beyond this spot an oasis. An unusually large sand dune jutted out amidst the desolate desert. The two of them stepped over it together. Zeon cheered joyfully. It's real, a place I've only heard about in rumors. He stretched with a refreshed feeling, as if a burden had been lifted. The oasis is here. The desert was now hotter than an oven. Gusts of wind blew, carrying nothing but sand. Zeon slowly crawled through the heat, his strength gradually draining away. He cast his gaze far into the distance and exclaimed excitedly, "It's real, a place I've only heard about in rumors." Zeon spread his arms wide and shouted, "The oasis is here." Immediately after, he followed the slope down. Water, how many days has it been since I had a drop of water? Diorden just clicked his tongue at that. Zeon was extremely excited and ran with all his might. Finally, I see it, finally. He plunged his face into the water without a second thought. The cool sensation instantly dispelled the heat on his skin, bringing immense comfort. The water is soaking into me, this feels so good. In his heart, he silently lamented, in this damn desert, over 50 degrees Celsius, after so many days, this cool feeling is finally seeping into my body. His eyes suddenly paused. Is this happiness? From the depths of the pond, something seemed to sing into his eyes. What is that bright light? It's dazzling yet so warm. Not too long after, Zeon suddenly felt his eyelids heavy as lead. Why do I feel so sleepy? Just then Diorden's roar echoed in his ears. Wake up, you idiot. He rushed forward with heavy footsteps. The light from beneath the pond grew brighter. Because from beneath the deep water, a giant anglerfish, with its mouth wide open, emerged. Diorden lunged forward and precisely grabbed his shirt. Just as he forcefully pulled his chest away, that giant fish lunged out of the pond. Its missed lunge, though harmless to Zeon, terrified him immensely. Diorden then released him, then gained momentum to jump high. He twisted his hand and tightened his grip on Zeon a little more. Then with all his might, he slashed down with a fatal blow. The water in the pond echoed with his power, soaking him to the bone. Truly unbelievable, so this was something he had only heard about. Zeon stared blankly, looking up at what was gradually appearing behind the curtain of water. A rainbow. Diorden roughly tossed the fish fin he had just pulled out. It was a sand-jawed monster, which used the light on its forehead to lure prey and then devoured it. He suddenly stopped speaking here, and Salg's expression gradually turned a bit unpleasant. Just as expected, in the very next second, Diorden aggressively delivered a devastating blow. He instinctively touched his extremely aching cheek, while Diorden roared furiously. Did you throw away everything I taught you, you idiot? You thought you were so great after just adapting a little. He yelled impatiently. Fools like you are the ones who die the soonest in this desert. Do you hear me, you scoundrel? Zeon said nothing and quietly replied, yes. Diorden sighed softly, his tone softening slightly. Skin it, he said. Hearing this, Zeon was a bit surprised. Skin it. He lowered his voice and explained, it's a Class C monster. Its belly skin is very soft and tough, perfect for making a cloak, so cut it out and make a cloak. Zeon still innocently asked, do you need a cloak? Diorden, who had just calmed down a little, was provoked into rage by him. Not for me, make it for yourself, you damn fool. Why is your brain getting less intelligent by the day? There must be a reason. Did some kids turn your left brain to stone and then use magic to corrode your right brain? Zeon felt his ears were about to give out, but he could only grudgingly say, I'm sorry, and also, he said softly, although it has changed a lot, this creature looks very much like a species of fish that used to live on Earth. Diorden stopped talking to him and turned away. You've probably never seen fish before, so look closely or don't, it's up to you. Zeon suddenly thought to himself, it's fish. His eyes widened slightly. This is the first time I've ever seen one. Fish are truly terrifying. Then he took out his knife and slowly plunged it into the fish's belly. Diorden on the other side leisurely teased, do you want me to scratch this fish's back? It'll probably be so happy that it'll come back to life, right? Zeon flinched. Stop it, I can do it myself. He then raised his head and looked at it again. This is tougher than I thought, if that's the case. Then he tried to channel some mana into the knife, concentrating. He had to concentrate. He began to meticulously make a firm cut, channeling mana into the blade to increase its cutting power. Zeon widened his eyes and thinly shaved the fin to make a needle. He muttered, and if I use tendons from the flesh as thread? His eyes suddenly lit up. This is. But then he dejectedly knelt down. It's over for me. Diorden, seeing this, cruelly teased. You've turned the fish into a pile of trash. Zeon, a bit unconvinced, grumbled, damn it, there's still plenty of material here, let's try again. And so, one of his attempts lasted until midnight. The sky and earth were shrouded in darkness, making nothing visible. Finally he exclaimed excitedly, Done, it's finally perfectly finished. He muttered to himself after 8 failed attempts. Finally, it's done. At this level I could probably sell it. Welcome to the fashion boutique. Diorden slowly stood up. Hey, you idiot, I thought my efforts were about to be stolen, so I growled fiercely. No way, I don't want to, I won't allow it, it's mine. But he casually brushed it aside. Stop talking nonsense, eat this. Zeon looked skeptically at the huge thing in Diorden's hand. Huh, what is this? He replied calmly. Sandworm venom is an extremely rare medicinal ingredient. You are forbidden to leave even a tiny bit, eat it all for me. Zeon nervously swallowed. And if you don't finish it, Diorden grinned widely, you'll die. Then he decisively threw it to Zeon and urged, hurry up and take it, my hands are about to fall off. Zeon, feeling extremely frustrated, retorted in his mind, just let them fall off then. Then, being cowardly, he just thought that and looked at the huge lump of venom. After a few seconds of hesitation, he closed his eyes and took a bite. Fine, damn it, this is medicine though, it's horrifyingly awful, but better than being beaten to death. After chewing for a while, he suddenly stopped grimacing. What is this? Zeon lowered his head and took another big bite. It felt like eating clouds. How could he not feel full no matter how much he ate? He was very focused on eating, yes, thanks to that, he had devoured it all. Dee suddenly spoke in a blunt tone. He grinned, it's time for you to turn to ashes. Zeon turned around, confused, what the hell are you talking about? As soon as he said this, he suddenly clutched his neck and threw his head back, screaming. Zeon discovered a strange heat erupting within his body. What is this? I'm burning up. It wasn't just simple heat. The heat intensified, his body, his mana, everything was going crazy. It hurt so much, like a sun was kicking and thrashing inside his stomach. At this rate he would really. While roaring in pain, Diorden beside him watched calmly. Endure it, you idiot. He cast his gaze out at the water. Everything was just like this oasis. Soon, it would disappear with the sand and wind as if it had never existed. Diorden muttered in a deep voice, but right there, the sandworms will be reborn. And then they will return, life just goes on in a cycle. Zeon was now in so much pain that he thrashed like a fish. Damn that old man. He cried out in agony, don't just sit there and be pitiful, please save me. He slowly cast his gaze over. Seeing the other person's eyes welling up, Zeon became even more enraged and yelled, old man, I'll kill you. Diorden didn't bother to argue, just half closed his eyes and said, shut up so I can sleep. You continued to writhe in tearing pain. And when you vaguely woke up, it was already bright daylight. Where am I? Diorden appeared from somewhere, upside down, looking down at you. You're awake, you idiot. Zeon, upon waking up, was utterly shocked. Damn it, you scared me, you gave me a fright. He simply asked, did you sleep well, you dummy? Upon hearing this, you pouted indignantly. Sleep, I fainted, do you know that? Diorden replied calmly, is that so? How do you feel then? Zeon slowly began to feel his body. My body. It's still the same. Midway you suddenly paused for a moment and tried clenching your fist. No, that's not right. Zeon suddenly realized his body felt as light as a grain of sand. His muscles were as supple as steel wires, and his mana surged like a fierce storm. You stared blankly. What is this? How did I suddenly become so strong? What happened? Diorden revealed in a low voice. It's thanks to that desert dew. He turned his head to look at you. Desert dew is a precious medicine for those crossing the desert. It gives you the strength to endure the scorching sun and sandstorms with the merchant caravans. It's worth a mana crystal. Diorden continued with a satisfied tone. It seems the potion worked better than expected. Congratulations, you fool. Zeon was completely stunned. Something so precious. You really gave it to me. Diorden replied without a second thought. Because you were too weak, since I went to the trouble of dragging you along. You should at least be somewhat useful. You were extremely excited then and ran over. Got it, I will become truly useful. Zeon the versatile, Zeon the reliable. He impatiently cut you off. Shut up and eat, you're not going anywhere until you finish this worm. The sun had also risen higher, and the heat began to rain again. Diorden lightly touched the skeleton and muttered, this monster has more meat than I thought. I've been eating until I'm sick of it for 4 days straight. With that, he turned to look at you again. Now, shall we continue our journey, you simpleton? Your lips curved up slightly after. You excitedly shouted loudly, understood. After not traveling far, a sandstorm suddenly descended. Zeon, draped in his self-made cloak, walked leisurely forward. You chewed noisily as you walked. A sandstorm with my new abilities. It feels like just a cool breeze. Then you looked at Diorden's retreating back. But that old man was still walking swiftly without needing rest. You muttered to yourself, he hasn't said a word for days. Could he be going through menopause? Zeon became suspicious again. We've been walking for 2 weeks without rest. Does he even know the way? A giant desert ant the size of a house suddenly appeared behind you. But you were only concerned. Damn it, Is this crazy old man lost? It roared loudly in your ear, annoying you, so you casually threw a punch. Shut up, you brat. Zeon continued to grumble. How much further do we have to go? As soon as you finished speaking, you suddenly paused and looked back. Seeing the desert ant with a dented head, Zeon casually remarked, "It's quite tough, isn't it? You thought with some apprehension I was planning to just pass by peacefully, but it seems that won't be possible this time." Zeon sensed a swarm of desert ants approaching from all around. These guys seem serious. You lowered your center of gravity and raised your hand. Alright, if you want to play, come at me quickly. Zeon channeled a large amount of mana and struck the ground forcefully. If you're late, you'll die by this old man's hands, come on. The swarm of ants, previously hidden by the desert, was revealed by your gale force attack. Zeon squatted down, held out a finger pointing forward in praise. Good, it's lucky you're obedient, sand bomb. Immediately, the sand around him exploded upwards. Zeon stood up and looked at the entire sand-covered view, adding, "Anyway, a day with a sandstorm like this is quite interesting. Everywhere you look, you only see sand." As soon as he looked over and saw Diorden had run far away, he shouted, "Where did that old man disappear to? Hey old man, how could you abandon me and go alone, you wicked thing?" The sand dust dissipated, revealing desert ants within. Zeon's angry voice echoed everywhere. "Have you ever seen anyone who lives without a friend or colleague? No wonder you're still alone even when you're old." He quickly ran towards Diorden, whispering, "If you hear this, I apologize." Zeon's eyes widened as he muttered, "There's no way he can hear me. Zeon's sensing range is within 10 meters. Normally, he's always on guard and never lets his guard down, so if a monster appears around here, he can deal with it immediately. However, the thing he just sensed was a bit different. What he discovered now was more like a sense of dread than a demonic beast. Immediately after, a swarm of desert ants broke through the sand's surface and rushed out. He wiped sweat from his chin, unable to help but curse loudly. "Damn it, why are there so many of them? Where did this giant army come from? I don't know." Zeon glanced at the distant figure and shouted, "Hey old man, these guys, they're numbers." In the distance, Diorden, with a calm expression, silently took it all in. But in an instant, Zeon raised his hand to gather magic, gritting his teeth and muttering, "No, when will I stop calling out for help like a child?" He raised his hand to create sand dunes, aiming at the charging swarm of desert ants, and said, "The old man must have sensed them. If so, then this is the trial the old man set for me." Zeon stared at the swarm of desert ants and shouted, "You damn insects, whether you're 1,000 or 10,000, you're still just bugs." He swung his arm and hundreds of sand arrows shot out, enveloping them all. Zeon gritted his teeth, constantly controlling the sand to attack the swarm of desert ants. Suddenly, a desert ant broke through and charged straight at him. Zeon raised both hands against its body and flipped backward to dodge. "Holy crap, I take back what I said. How can these bastards be so numerous?" His face contorted with ferocity. He clenched his fists and punched the desert ant, roaring, "You bullies, you cowards, do you have no conscience? If you're so brave, come fight me one-on-one." Zeon looked at the large number of desert ants charging from above and cursed under his breath, "Damn it." Immediately after, the sand beneath the ground exploded upwards. This is truly a mad ant nest. Dust billowed up high, covering the entire scene before his eyes. Zeon stood on a rock, breaking through the mist, and shot straight into the air. He squinted his left eye, which was constantly bleeding, and said while looking at the desert ants below, "It feels like I just fell straight into a giant ant nest." Then Zeon turned his head upwards and said, "First I need to fly higher to assess the situation. Luckily you guys are not aerial combatants." Suddenly, his eyes widened as he was pulled down forcefully from behind. One hand braced against the rock beneath his feet. He turned his head to see desert ants stacked on top of each other chasing after him. His face full of disbelief, he exclaimed, "Are you kidding me? No way, this can't be happening." A desert ant clamped onto Zeon's leg, emitting a shrill cry. He was pulled down by its force, his whole body slamming hard onto the ground. Zeon let out a hacking cough, blood continuously pouring out. He quickly turned around, bracing himself with one hand on the ground, trying to sit up, his whole body trembling, letting out continuous hacking coughs. He exerted force to try and lift his head to look into the distance. Over there, Diorden stood with his arms crossed, nonchalantly listening to Zeon's voice reaching his ears. "Hey old man." The corner of his lips twitched slightly, revealing his teeth as he gritted them tightly. Zeon smiled, looking directly in that direction, and said, "Just watch how I survive." Diorden looked at the sand flying high and replied loudly, "That's right, good spirit, you idiot." He silently watched the scene before him and exclaimed, "Your ability is truly a blessing in this world that has turned into a desert. You can surely use it to live a life that everyone will envy." Diorden narrowed his eyes, the veins on his face bulging fiercely. "But if so, then everything will just stop there." His voice echoed everywhere. "These dumbasses don't even understand why the world has come to this state. They're just chasing after illusions." Diorden thought of mass-produced machines, whispering, "A person who awakens is someone who must learn, apply, and develop skills on their own, not through standardized cookie-cutter factory methods." The old man watched the constantly exploding sand, scattering everywhere, thinking to himself, "I still can't forget." Diet hugged his chest, watching the sand continuously explode below. "I still can't forget that." Before his eyes appeared scenes of buildings swallowed by a sea of fire, the horrific tragedy from 100 years ago, the entire city submerged in fiery red flames. How powerless I was then. So many people died pointlessly right before my eyes. Along with the booming explosions, the flames quickly devoured all my colleagues, neighbors, and even family members. Not even my daughter was spared. Diorden remembered his daughter's tiny hand. "I couldn't protect anything, like the most pathetic person in the world. I lost everything right before my eyes." His gaze gently annihilated the surrounding sand ants. "But you are different." Diorden looked silently in that direction, his lips slightly moving. "You have the potential to become anyone. Throw yourself into it and cross the boundary between death and life." The corner of his lips twitched. He uttered each word, and then finally, Diorden saw him raise his hand, gently swatting away the surrounding sand ants and adding, "You will become stronger just like this." His eyes flashed with a faint light. A hint of madness flickered on his face. "You all feel it too, don't you? You're about to die." Around him, the desert ants kept staring at. Right after that, with a loud shout from him, sand gathered from the ground, a super high-pressure compressed sand missile. It sounds simple and crude, but a sand missile shot straight into the gathered desert ants in front of him. Watching it rush towards the desert ants, he said, "If I gather all my gravity, wind, and all the energy I have." He spread his arms, a look of joy on his face. Watching it explode, power would increase dozens of times. Zeon looked straight ahead, so excited that veins bulged. "With this move, you guys are finished." He raised his hands, controlling the sand missile to strike straight down. "Before I get any stronger, if you can't kill me, you're definitely dead." In the distance, Diorden clutched his chest, his face showing clear delight. "That brat is already so excited." On the other side, Zeon held his injured arm, his eyes watchful as he followed. The smoke and dust cleared, revealing jagged craters in front of him. He clenched his fists, emitting proud laughter. Just as Kion was feeling smug, large jaws clamped around his waist from behind. "Old man, see this, I'll slaughter these bastards." Zeon gritted his teeth, his face incredulous. He glanced back. How could this be? He tilted his head back and shouted in confusion, "Why can't I feel even the slightest presence?" Zeon used his blood-stained hand to grab the jaws that were clamped tightly, invisibility. How can these small fries use such high-level skills? If so, this is poison. He gritted his teeth, his face fierce, and then roared, "No wonder I've been feeling so difficult to control all this time. Is it a poison that blocks mana circulation points?" Zeon angrily turned forward and shouted, "You scoundrels, you dare to use this trick." A claw from behind struck hard on the back of his head, knocking him unconscious. A moment later, opening his eyes in the darkness, he cursed inwardly, "Damn it." He looked around in confusion. What kind of place is this? Damn ants, is this an ant nest? Suddenly, Zeon looked up and saw a larva rapidly approaching. He looked at them uncertainly, thinking it was because the surrounding larvae kept crawling towards Zeon's arm. It used its sharp pincers to bite hard into his arm. Zeon looked up at the cliff face, thinking constantly, "I can't move my body anymore. If it continues like this, they'll eat my liver and drink my blood while I'm still alive. What should I do now?" His gaze was losing focus, slowly closing. His eyelids fell heavily. Zeon's heart was filled with unwillingness. Is this the end? The scenes of his life are flashing before his eyes. A larva kept crawling closer, emitting small chirps. He clenched his fist and crushed it with all his might. On the cliff face, the desert ants let out a shriek upon seeing this. Below, Zeon clenched his fists, letting out loud, mocking laughter. "Damn it." He tilted his head back, opening his mouth wide and shouting, "There isn't a single good memory flashing through my mind. It's so unfair. I can't die like this for nothing." On his arm, 2 energy lines lit up. Those damned ants. Right after that, the ground exploded, sending sand flying high into the air. The desert ants, seeing this, quickly gathered, emitting a notification sound. The ground beneath its feet also exploded, sending rocks and dirt flying. The cliff face was quickly covered in dust. Large pieces of rock continuously exploded outwards. Below, Zeon bowed his head as a barrage of sand missiles formed a cordon around him. Zeon looked down at his arm. I've leveled up again. The mark disappeared, and his stamina and mana surged uncontrollably. He gazed at the two bright lines on it, uncertainly asking, did I evolve? Zeon stared at his hand, muttering, compared to when I was rank F, my strength and mana are on a completely different level now. He glanced to his left, adding, and yet. Zeon was astonished to see the giant queen ant's colossal, unscathed form, not a single scratch on it. Immediately after, he saw it charge directly towards him and leaped aside to evade. Zeon held up two index fingers pointing at the queen ant and gritted his teeth, shouting, that damn bastard. It shattered the rock wall as if it were a sand wall. Just how strong is it? The sand missiles struck the queen ant forcefully, then exploded, but it seemed completely unharmed. Zeon braced himself on the ground, then exclaimed, this is insane. Not even a scratch, it's a true monster. He strained, causing the veins on the back of his hand to bulge. I can't win like this. Zeon stared at the giant queen ant opposite him. No matter how hard I attack now, I can't even leave a scratch on its body. He held his hands out in front of him as if estimating its size. Then I have to use my brain, how to defeat armor that cannot be broken. Immediately after, the segments under the queen ant's body rose and gathered. Not break it, not pierce it, but tear it apart. The surrounding sand gathered like a rope, tightly binding its entire body. Zeon watched streams of sand pour from his clenched fists. That's right, if I can't destroy it, I'll twist and peel off its armor. The queen ant, continuously squeezed by the sand, let out a piercing shriek. Along with a sharp sound, a bright energy sphere formed between its pincers. Zeon continued to control the surrounding sand, encircling the queen ant within. Seeing the bright sphere, he opened his mouth wide and roared, what is this, you mad creature? Zeon felt his eardrums being pierced and realized with a start, low frequency, no high frequency, at this rate I'll explode. The residual light from the energy sphere relentlessly struck towards where he stood. Zeon bowed his head, gritted his teeth, and snarled with a fierce expression. You damn bastard, even at the last moment, you're still hiding this move. A white light flashed in his eyes, and blood flowed out incessantly. Fine, let's go, you dog. Zeon stared directly at the queen ant in the distance and shouted, let's see who dies first, me or you. He felt the low frequency incessantly striking deeper, supplementing, we'll find out soon enough. His eyes widened, filled with fierce blood vessels. It won't stop until one of us falls. Come at me, you bastard. After a moment, the light in his hands flickered and broke. His entire body fell backward. His eyes snapped open, his face filled with disbelief. What's happening? Why is my body? His body involuntarily fell backward. He whispered in his heart, it's over, I hit my limit earlier. His vision began to blur. He couldn't control his falling body. This damn body is so weak. Diordan reached out and embraced his entire body. Honestly, you're so weak it's infuriating. The corner of his mouth twitched, and he smiled teasingly. You'll get a crooked mouth sleeping here, kid, you idiot. Zeon, hearing this, smiled brightly and called out to the old man. His weak voice echoed, I yield the finishing blow to you. Hearing this, Diordan couldn't help but laugh heartily. Such a cheeky brat, it seems you're not entirely useless. The old man turned to look at its bisected body. The queen ant was rank C. It was far stronger than you, however. Your refusal to give up and your courage to fight desperately is commendable. You deserve to live on. Zeon closed his eyes, resting his head on Diordan's chest. I can't hear anything you're saying. My eardrums are completely ruined. Immediately after, the old man gently lifted him up with one hand. Just your eardrums are ruined, right? As Zeon was lifted by Diordan, his face filled with confusion. Hey, where are you suddenly going? The old man turned and looked at the queen ant in the nearby debris, then started walking with Zeon. Zeon pouted, staring at it, and asked suspiciously, what is this now? He pointed a finger at the queen ant's egg, raising his eyebrows. You're going to. He looked over with a smile, placing a hand on the engraved rock face. His hand rested on a gravestone inscribed with words, eat it, it's medicine. Zeon, seeing this, was filled with doubt. What the hell is he really telling me to eat that thing? He widened his eyes and looked at the queen ant, thinking, how on earth can I eat that? Xion looked up to inquire, "Sir, I'm just asking to be sure after eating it. I won't go mad like when I ate the sandgrub's honey, will I?" Diorden glanced away, answering indifferently, "Eating that will probably kill you." Xion watched his mouth move, going mad inside. Damn it, I can't hear what he's saying at all. Finally resigned, he opened his mouth and bit towards the queen ant. Whatever, I probably won't die immediately. He swallowed it down his throat, thinking to himself, I don't know what strawberries taste like, but, right after, with a cheerful face, looked up in admiration. What's this? It's incredibly delicious. His eyes widened, blood vessels kept appearing. Are there any more fruits, sir? Xion felt sharp spines growing from within his body, stuttering and asking, what, sir? He lowered his head, feeling his body changing, organs inverting, meaning his intestines and stomach were twisted and turned inside out. The queen is extremely poisonous. Just a small bite is enough to make one's internal organs turn inside out. In other words, whoever eats it will have their internal organs shredded by the spines and inverted until they die with a feeling of their gut bursting. Xion clutched his head with both hands, screaming wildly. No, what the hell is this? What did you just make me eat, sir? Diorden scratched his ear, frowning reproachfully. You're too noisy. If you want to survive in this crazy world, get used to it. Xion puffed out his cheeks, unable to resist replying. How can I get used to something like this? He spat out a large mouthful of blood, angrily cursing, damn it. Xion looked at his blood-stained hand. This piece of trash life, I really thought I had finally found someone to trust. The scene by the campfire with Diorden flashed in his mind. He thought to himself, in the end, I was truly an idiot. Xion lowered his head, cold sweat continuously trickling down his face. The old man stood still, watching Xion's entire body collapse onto the ground. Diorden lifted the severed lower body of the queen ant to examine it now. Then he thrust his hand inside to search. Diorden's hand delved deep inside its body, quickly searching everywhere. After a moment, he grabbed the queen ant's mana stone and pulled it out forcefully. Diorden looked at the glowing stone in his hand with a smile. The mana stone of a demonic beast is indeed on a completely different level than those from the quarry. I've struck it rich. He quickly put the mana stone into his pocket, glanced around and decided, this ant seems useful, so I'll just collect it all. Diorden was startled and surprised to see the sword emitting a faint light. His gaze flickered to the side. He muttered in a low voice, my old friend. Diorden looked at Xion lying on the ground and added, yes, I know, but there's no other way. The weak must die, that's simply their destiny. Saying that, he quickly pulled his sword out of the ground, intending to turn and leave. Diorden didn't turn his head. You know as well as I do, we don't have much time left. After a long while, Xion looked at the blood in front of him and asked in disbelief, what, I'm still alive? Right after, Diorden leaned in with a smiling face. Hey, awake, you idiot. Dust immediately exploded upwards, covering everything within. He waved his hand, his face displeased and scolding, you insolent brat, what are you doing kicking up so much dust, you scamp? He looked up, raising an eyebrow in confirmation, really. He looked at the sand tornadoes surrounding Xion and said, are you serious, you fool? Diorden looked at them calmly, aiming directly at himself. Hey, you idiot, stop messing around and just... Raising his hand to control Gal Ryan to continuously attack Diorden. Why? He looked agitatedly at the waves of sand constantly attacking from all directions. Why are you trying to kill me? The sand around swirled up, accompanied by questioning voices. Why? He swung his hand, his eyes filled with determination. I will never forgive you. Sharp stone pillars rapidly rose from the ground. Sand under On's control rushed in from all four sides, breaking those stone pillars. He raised both hands, relentlessly attacking towards Day's head. Sweat still in the same posture, raising his hand, emitting gasps. He looked up, coldly asking again, I'm asking why you want to. Diorden shouted angrily. Good heavens, what are you doing, you idiot? He stood with his arms crossed behind the stone pillars, taunting, I know the queen's poison can muddle your mind, but can't you use your brain to think a little? Xion thought in disbelief, what the hell? He's just standing there taking all my attacks, not even a scratch. Diorden's eyebrows furrowed. He calmly explained, fool, if I wanted you dead, I could snap my fingers and you'd be gone. Why would I bother with elaborate poisoning? Why exhaust yourself? He heard that and remained silent for a long time, stammering, "It does make some sense." Immediately after, the old man's voice continued to ring out, witnessing that God is indeed a potent poison that disrupts the internal organs, but on the other hand, it also helps expel all toxins and impurities from your body. Depending on how it is used, it will be a deadly poison or a divine medicine. It removes all the filth in your body. Zeon stood still without moving, listening to Diordan's words, and then filled those gaps with mana. "You attacked me just now, and you felt it yourself, didn't you?" Hearing the old man's words, he immediately tightened his grip, feeling that his mana had increased by 3 to 4 times. After finishing, with a face full of anxiety, he looked over at the old man. He immediately rushed over and hugged Diordan tightly. "I'm sorry for doubting you. I must have short-circuited just now. How could I doubt you?" The old man bowed his head and replied gently, "Then this super stupid guy, I know, so let me go. What kind of man clings to someone like this? It's disgusting." Zeon, with tears streaming down his face, gritted his teeth to keep himself from crying. "I'm not craving it either. Wait a minute. I heard it. It even cured my ears too." Diordan bowed his head and urged him with a smile. "You idiot, you're all grown up and still crying like a child. Let me go quickly." He still refused to look up. "No way, it's not over yet." The old man felt the sword urging him and replied in his heart, "I know, I understand. To be honest with my old friend, it wouldn't be surprising if he had died just now." Zeon, with tears and snot all over his face, looked up and observed, "It's really pitiful. I guess he won't hold a grudge anymore, will he? That burning word is quite something." Dyad looked at his face and whispered, "It survived only because it was strong." The old man clenched his fists so tightly that his veins bulged. "If it gets stronger so quickly, it's useless to me. It's truly a gamble on a pile of garbage." Diordan put one hand on him and said, "All right, are you ready?" He whispered softly in his heart, "You idiot, don't forgive me, you fool." He frowned and stared at the old man. "Why are you grabbing me again?" The corners of his lips curved up, revealing perfectly straight teeth. The old man, with a face full of smiles, raised a finger and said, "We don't have much time, so it's best to get out of here quickly. You agree, don't you?" Zeon's eyes widened, his face covered in cold sweat. "Damn it, don't tell me you're going to." On the ground, a few scorpions were gathered happily. Then suddenly a surge of power shattered the ground and shot straight up into the sky. Diordan, carrying him with one hand, laughed heartily. "How is it, you idiot? Much faster, right?" He raised his fist angrily and shouted, "Faster, my ass, can't you walk like a normal person for once?" The old man turned his head and demanded loudly, "Then don't you sleep with your eyes wide open for 4 consecutive days?" Diordan frowned and looked to the side. "A weakling like you will never get a wife." "Wait a minute, what is that?" Zeon also looked in that direction, following his gaze. "What is it now? At this point, nothing can surprise me anymore." He stared with wide eyes in amazement, only able to let out a gasp. Zeon saw the giant figure of the monster and shouted, "Holy crap, what the hell is that?" Zeon stared in that direction and asked, "Even though it's at least 30 kilometers away, is that demonic beast still that huge?" Diordan let go and quickly descended to the ground. "They can't give me a moment of peace, can they? That's the mobile fortress Archilon," he repeated doubtfully. "Archilon." The old man looked at its giant legs and confirmed, "Yes, it's a B-class turtle-type demonic beast, but its defense is far beyond A-class. They modified its shell and tamed it to be a means of transportation." Zeon, with a face full of astonishment, asked with his mouth agape, "Are you saying that someone can actually ride that crazy monster?" Diordan glanced at him and confirmed, "Yes, look closely, you idiot." He looked up with his mouth agape, hearing the old man's voice in his ear. "This world is vast," Diordan said with his hands on his chest. "And out there are freaks who can control a mythical beast like that." The old man looked at the towering Archilon approaching and added, "Engrave that image into your mind." From its body, a figure stepped on Archilon, gained momentum and jumped down. In the blink of an eye, he had landed in front of the two of them. The voice of the man in glasses sounded, "It's too far, so I'm not entirely sure, but it's true." He stood beside them and exclaimed, "What is it?" Diordan didn't turn his head and commanded, "Stay put, you idiot." The man in glasses narrowed his eyes and looked closely. "It's been a while, hasn't it?" He raised an eyebrow and added, "Diordan,